Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience Fort Worth Invitational DraftKings live chat. If you're catching this on demand, go to the description, skip ahead, boom! You'll be right at the beginning of the chat. If you're here right now, give the episode a like right off the hop, subscribe to the podcast, rate and review, helps keep the show completely free, and start leaving your questions right now. If you missed some of the content during the week, I had Raza on yesterday for a full DraftKings breakdown. I had Feinberg, as always, on Monday to talk about the bets and the one and done. You can find my betting cheat sheet up on my Facebook page right now. First round leaders, head-to-head, some Euro guesses. That's all they are. They're just guesses. That's up facebook.com/thepme. My DraftKings cheat sheet is up on dkplaybook.com. And I need to let you know about fantasynational.com. A lot of new tools have been surfacing over the last month. Members have been really using them to their benefits. A lot of green screens lately. So if you get a monthly membership now, it takes you through the US Open, so give you some time to catch up and how to use all the tools. But now, the biggest thing from last week, live scoring. So instead of just clicking on each player's name on the PGA.com Tour app, you can just go to fantasynational.com and see who's leading in strokes gained off the tee, who's leading in par 4 scoring, who's leading in strokes gained putting, and if there's certain guys that are great tee to green and suck at putting at the moment, you might want to hop on them. It's great for the DraftKings Showdown contest if that is something that you play. All right, let's get into this. Hit me with your questions. Give it a like. Let's go.
Entering the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience live chat for the Fort Worth Invitational. You got some DraftKings questions, get them in the chat. You got some questions about other things of the golfing nature, get them in the chat. So just do that. Give the episode a like too, or if you're listening to this after the fact on demand, and you're listening to it in the audio version, then just rate and review. That's all I really ask for. Fantasy National stuff that's coming up. Over the past few weeks, we've launched a mixed condition model where you can kind of separate everything by round, by grass type, whatever you want, and mix it all into one thing. Of course, the custom model is still up there too. But if this is hugely important for anyone playing the DraftKings Showdown slate, live stats as the tournament is going now. So if you remember, check back on Friday, check back on Saturday, and as the round is going on, you can see who is gaining the most strokes putting, who is losing the most strokes off the tee, and you can see, the best way that I always think about doing it is look at who's really high in approach and who's really low at putting, and maybe that flips for a Showdown slate. We'll see. Anyway, Reid Fowler joining me on the line from DK Live, the DraftKings Playbook. What's going on, my man?
Nothing much. I really like this field. It's a little different than what we've had in the past, right? Last week was atrocious by field standards. So this is a nice pivot off of what we've seen, and I'm excited for this tournament.
All right, so let's get right into the chat. Again, give the episode a like. It goes a long way. Helps keep these chats free. No chats the next 2 weeks, by the way. I'm on vacation, so expect a lot of football content next week. I got some great guests lined up about preliminary rankings if you're really into football, plus some movie rankings, that sort of fun stuff. I'll be back the following Monday, but no chat for the St. Jude either because I am filming a super US Open, I almost said Masters. US Open Millionaire Maker Show, a lot like the Masters one that was like 2.5 hours long. I'll be filming that on the Wednesday to have it ready for you for that Thursday. So when the golf starts, you can get your US Open research started right away. All right, first question. Brian asks, Brian was asking something. Where'd it go? You rocking the earrings? Nah, I'm not rocking the earrings today. That was a yesterday thing. Go back and watch the Bachelorette cast preview show, by the way. Docking was in studio. It was legit. And also, get your questions in now. I can't recommend enough. Even if you hate The Bachelor, it's just as basically being assholes the entire time, which is a tremendous amount of fun when it comes to talking about people on reality TV. But now, the earrings, I really love the earrings because I wear them in my day-to-day life, but I rarely wear them on the show, only for special occasions, and they really trigger people, and it's awesome. So I love it a lot. All right.
I like them too. You keep on rocking them.
Of course. Clark asked, thoughts on Cam Smith this week? He's right wedged. He's by J.J. Spawn and Adam Hadwin. Both are setting up to be tremendous chalk this week. I like Cam Smith. I just like him as a pedigree player. Like when you look at the talent surrounding him, I've used him around, I believe, I can pull up the actual number in front of me right now. I believe it was 20% of lineups. It might be 15% of lineups. So 3 of 20, 4 of 20, that kind of thing. I hope he doesn't have to rely on his really good around the green game, but he's a prolific scrambler, which will help him if conditions really do pick up. Right now, it doesn't seem like there's wind at all. I looked at the tee biases, none. There's barely any wind, which is really atypical for this event, but he's someone that he's not going to bomb you out off the course. So if he can keep it in the fairways, I think that he's going to be fine here. Played well at Heritage in the past, so I think that he can do that here. Do you like Cam Smith?
Yeah, I do, especially at that ownership, right? I mean, at Fantasy National, we got about 6% around there. And if you're looking at those guys, I mean, if you're playing some of these stacks where you're up there in the stars versus scrubs, you're going to have to roster some of these guys. So Cam Smith at around 6%. Look, if you think too that with these small greens, that short game and scrambling is going to be something, Cam Smith is your guy. He's an ultimate talent. He's a ball striker, and he can play around the green. So I do like Cam Smith. He's in about 10% of my lineups. I do like some other guys in that area. But again, I do really like Cam Smith as a pivot at that. Even if you want to pivot off of Sabatini, right? He's getting quite a bit of ownership now because he's hitting top 15s, top 10s. So I do like him as a pivot.
Yeah, Sabatini, former winner of this event too, and he hasn't missed a cut in like 4 months, which is nice. So Brian has another question that's around the same sort of level. It's about Chez Reavie. Not the best course history, but you would think this course would fit his game. Thoughts on him for the week? I like Chez just a little bit, but I'm not going to end up using him only because when you look at the players that are right there, I do want to use Sabatini. I do want to use Cam Smith. I do want to use Woo! Because I love Siwoo. JJ Spawn, there's just too many guys in that area. I kind of wanted to use Russell Knox as well, but I just couldn't figure out. At that point, I would just be throwing darts at every single player. But I understand where you can get behind Chez Reavie. He hits a ton of fairways. The Fantasy National Stat Fairways game, which I've included in my column this week, you can find the link to it, of the leaders of the past 10, 24, 20, or 50, 100 rounds. Chez is near the top in all of that, and that's a stat that I really like this week. The problem is, I just don't see him on the same level as a lot of these guys. He could surprise me. And listen, if you want to use Chez, I'm not going to talk you off of it. I just happen to like other guys more. Will you be using Chez?
I will be. It's one of these things too, where we talk about all the time. Is it current form or course history, right? If you look at some of the mixed model on Fantasy National, kind of gets me a little bit more towards how the guys are doing on corollaries on courses that are similar. If you look at a guy like Chez, for me in my mixed model, he comes out at number one.
Oh,
now,
Jesus.
I know, so I might have to give my head a shake. Your famous words on why Chez comes out number one in any model, but he plays well on these short courses. He was a guy that we saw at 20%, maybe even higher earlier this season when he was on fire. Now he fell off a cliff, right, and so we stopped using him. But I do like his ownership. At that price, you're right, though. There are guys that, I will be playing more, so I might be tinkering a little bit, but I do have him in a couple of my lineups.
I would rather play Harmon, and Hostler. I'd rather play, I'm just fading Scott Piercy this week based on, I think that a lot of people are going to own him. I think objectively Piercy is a better play this week, so I would use him over him, although I'm not using Scott Piercy. That's just a stance fade for me. I'm using Hadwin, I'm using Kirk, I'm using Sabatini, I'm using Cam Smith, I'm using Danny Lee, I'm using I'm using Cook and JJ Spawn. I've built a lot of lineups that way where there's a lot of them that have 2 or 3 of those guys in the lineup that you just run out of room when it comes down to it, because I really don't like the lower $7,000 level. The only guys I really like down there, I have a Tata Sharma. I have a substantial amount of Russell Henley. Just I think he's undervalued this week. And then you keep dropping down. You're like, do I really want to use? I don't know. Sean O'Hare. I know some people really like Sean O'Hare. You can make a case for him, so I'm just going to avoid that one. I'm going to avoid Neiman at a non-driver course. Scott Brown, he's a first-round leader bet. I'm not going to use him in my DraftKings lineup, that kind of thing. Yeah. So, if people are asking about the weather, I put a link to the closest wind tower to Colonial into the chat right now if you want to go check that out. It looks like there's nothing Thursday, Friday. Saturday, Sunday, it gets a bit dicier. So again, with the showdown slates, you might want to check the weather for that, because it looks like a sine curve a little bit in what the wind is going to do on Saturday and Sunday. So if you can find the right just grouping of guys to really go into it, if you can find a dead spot where those conditions are going to be ideal, that might be a way to attack the Sunday slate. Like I mentioned too, with fantasynational.com, you get those live strokes gain metrics, and those are very, very valuable, I'll tell you that much. Next question in the chat comes from that was the weather question. Jordan, what do you think of Harris English this week? Talked about it with Feinberg. He's always all in when it comes to Harris English. I have no feel for Harris English. He has been playing a little bit better. Second to Jordan Spieth here 2 years ago, so he does have a decent course history. I'm not using any, are you?
No, same with me in that lower 7K range. I mean, Birdie or Better's gained. He's coming out, I think, in the top 20 if you look at over the last 24. But I like guys at that 7,100 a lot better. You know, Sam Saunders, he had a very good first round last week, but then just bombed on the second day. But even Streelman and even Haas, those are the three guys at that 71 that I like a lot better than Harris English. So I'm going to be off on English.
Next question. Who do you like more, Watney or Henley? I like Henley more. Brian asks, hey, Pat, no, I already answered that one. David, is Grillo the best first-round leader pick? I'm thinking about betting him at $500. I mean, if you can afford the $500, man, go toss it away. I prefer to play the first-round leaders, as people know, basically 90 to 1 and above, very, very small units that if you can hit it and you can sustain that, you hit one every 10 weeks, and boom, you're going to be up money. And if you have the ability to get the each ways in there too, and then you just need to hit one and you break a little bit up for the week, but it keeps you afloat in doing that. I don't like to just say, this guy's going to be first-round leader, I'm going to go in on him. If that was the case, Grillo's probably not a bad choice. Patrick Cantlay is a really good choice too. I believe he's 40 to 1 right now. He just has really good first round form. I actually tweeted out last night. I did the Fantasy National search by first round only of all of the players in the field last 12 rounds, and you can see who has the most strokes gained total. So I thought that was somewhat interesting. Would you just dive in on one guy as the first round leader ever?
No, not at all. I mean, like you said, you want to diversify that. I mean, first round leader, yes, you can make a case for or for Grillo, but if you think, and a lot of us in the industry think he's going to, he has a good chance to win this tournament, he has to go, from start to finish. And yes, he could do that, but even guys like Rory Sabatini always show up on the first page in the leaderboard on Thursday. So to go all in $500 in one guy, I don't know if that's a good strategy. I'd rather, like you were saying, hit those guys at 90, 100 to 1, and then if you hit, perfect. If not, then you're not out on the entire weekend.
It's true. And hey, I don't want to talk you out of a bet that could be a winner. So do what you feel like is all I'll say. It's like when man, I've been watching these Simpsons marathons now. Brad Goodman, do what you feel like. There you go. That's the best strategy as it comes down to this. When it pertains to first round leader, the reason that I tackle like the 200 to 1s and things like that is over the course of 4 rounds, generally speaking, the better players are going to emerge. That's why you give them a longer sample. They're going to be better. But in one single round of golf, anyone can kind of win a round of single golf. That's why they play it for the 4 rounds. That's why I like to attack the deeper odds guys. I just think there's more value on them. It's one of the untapped value markets of the golf betting world. Next one, Nicholas asks, Harman shot 10 over his last 2 tournaments, but one was a last round even to plus 10. The other was a minus 10 strokes gained around the green plus putting. Do you think this is concerning, or is his form not as bad as it looks? I think his form is bad, especially compared to what it was through the swing and at the beginning of the year. But I think that if I'm going to use Brian Harman, I'm going to tackle him on courses which I knew do suit him a little bit. And you always need to get the hot putter from Brian Harman. I mean, that's his biggest skill is putting. However, putts really well on bent, plays well on Pete Dye and shorter tracks, which this is going to be, not a Pete Dye, but it's a shorter track. Yep. So I have more confidence in his form at these style of courses. It's a lot like Kisner, bad form, but still just popped up and played well at the courses that he always plays well at. So I'm not super confident in either guy, but I know that both are going to be super low owned, so I'll take a shot on them.
Yeah, and especially if you think Hoffman and Stricker and some of these guys are going to be heavily owned, Harman's a great pivot there. I mean, if you look at he's losing strokes on approach, and it looks like these longer courses this year he's losing those strokes. And so if you look at his corollaries and his best finishes at the RSM, the RBC, right, Sony, he's doing pretty well. And even here at Colonial, he has a good history here. So I like Harman as a pivot off of those guys, and so I'm going to be using him in quite a bit of my lineups. Again, I'm tempering expectation, right, because he's losing those strokes approach and playing more of this course history, because I do think at Colonial, because it's been a mainstay, I want to play that experience a little bit more and not weigh so heavily on current form and just sprinkle in that course history.
Well, I've mentioned this on all the other shows too, that historically good putters tend to win at Colonial. You rarely see just your awful putters win. Harman's a historically good putter. Kisner, who won last year, is a historically good putter. Even someone like Steve Stricker, I understand that a little bit more. And that brings us to our next question that's about Russell Knox, and that's sort of the differentiator for me. Eloy, hey Pat, what do you guys think about Russell Knox having an above average week? I can see it. He plays well in these shorter courses. Again, he's another Pete Dye specialist with the shorter course. The approaches are kind of locked in, but he's just such a garbage putter. And I don't know if he can sustain it here. And he kind of falls into that mix a lot like Shez of guys that I just had to crop off the bottom of my list in that range because I'm going to side with historically good putters there.
Yeah, and look at the guys right there with them, Adam Hadwin. I mean, when you talk about, especially in that 7,600 range, we can make a case for each one of those guys being in a decent amount of our lineups. And so Russell Knox for me is not, I'm not seeing it, and so I'm not playing Knox. I'm going to be totally off on him.
Caleb asks, Xander Scheifele or Kevin Kisner on a single entry team for the last spot? I'd go with X. I think the X-Man, he'd probably be a bit higher owned, but not so much that it really should concern anyone. I like the way that he played at the Players. We're back on bent grass. This is the time of the year that he really heated up last season. I know he's more of a bomber. Kisner's more of a precision player. I like both of them, but for single entry, I think I would take the birdie upside of Xander Scheifele.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that, and I like to do this in even different sports, is a tiebreaker for me is always talent. So I'll take Xander. I'm not saying that Kisner's not talented, but against those two guys head to head, I'm taking Xander.
Ryan asks, I have $9,100 left for cash games. I'm struggling between Cantlay and Adam Scott. Thanks. Thank you. Give the episode a like while you're at it. Takes like half a second. Here's the thing. I would go down to Bryson if I wasn't using Bryson. If Bryson's not in that lineup, I would use Bryson over those two guys. And I fucked it up on Tuesday's show and in my column to begin the week. I thought Adam Scott was in. I thought that he had got the 60th spot. He's 61st in the world ranking, so he needs like another good week here in order to get into the U.S. Open. So he still does have something to play for. That's my bad. I failed to look at the update on Monday. I just saw it on Sunday night, and he was in. I was like, key, this is great for Adam Scott. I think I would go Cantlay over Scott. I think both are fine, but in full disclosure, I'm not using any Scott this week, and I am using some Patrick Cantlay, so that would mean I like Patrick Cantlay more.
Yeah, I'm reverse. I'm using Scott and not Cantlay. I just think with Scott, he has that consecutive major. I think there's a push. We saw it last year, too, with Stricker. Stricker, what he wanted to make and qualify for Aaron Hills in his home state. Now, there's not the same amount of motivation that Stricker had that Scott's going to have, but Scott's going to want to play tough. He's going to want to play hard. These guys are always playing. They care about where they finish because they care about making money. But I think Scott is going to want to play well. So I'm going to take Scott if I had to pick between the two. But I like that Bryson call because he's in that prime spot. I like his price. And so if DeChambeau is not in your lineup, go there. But between those other two, I would choose Scott.
So for DeChambeau, for me, I believe he's my third highest weighted player of the week. He came out number one in my model over the past 24 rounds, over the past 50 rounds. And we're talking about a course that's a bit shorter. He's played really well at these types of tracks. The putting is always kind of up and down with Bryson, but if we're talking about a course that involves a lot of strategy, you got to get the mad scientist on the go here. And plus, he's just been playing so well that just keep riding him until they make him like 10 grand, and then we'll figure it out after that. The next question concerns players under $7,000. Joseph asked that. Best option under $7,000. I'm only playing 4 guys under $7,000. My main two would be Kadira and Wes Bryan. I just have sort of a feeling about Wes Bryan this week. Good putter, still good with irons. Sucks off the tee, but hey, it's not that big of a concern this week. Kadira won at Heritage. That's a corollary course to here, so I like it. Sink or might be the safest. Those are the 4 guys that I'm playing under $7,000. The best? Probably Johnny question marks in terms of safety. I think that Kadira is probably your best upside play, though. And Sink by the Fantasy National Simulator has excellent top 20 equity. So I really like him more in like the betting top 20 market than really I think that just it's more substantial value there as opposed to his DK price. But I think you can use him too because I'm using him.
Yep. And when you say best at this range, right, you want finish and B, you want birdies. And guys that can rattle off birdies, even a Love Lady at the min price, I think he has the ability to rattle off birdies. But the best, I think you're right, Wesley Bryan. At the min price, where did he win? Right, he won on a corollary course similar to this. So if I had to say best, Godira is top 35 in the world. Those are the guys that you would have to feel confident in because of A, their win equity, B, their safety, and C, they got to be able to score. You want guys who can score down here, and that's what you're hoping for. So that's the only thing I would add is guys that would score.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to dip into this area either. You can construct a pretty good lineup of those mid $7,000 guys if you want some more safety on your side. But I think it's a decent week to kind of shoot for some of those upside guys down low because such a higher percentage of players make the cut with only 121 players in the field, at least 58%. And I say at least because if there's a big tie at like T68, you could end up with like 65% of people making the cut this week and potentially no MDF along with that, which would be hugely valuable. Like just having a 6 of 6 this week, I mean, it'll probably still cash, but it might be a min cash. Like that's not going to guarantee you much this week. You still need to have guys at the top of the leaderboard and making birdies. So just watch out for that. Charles asks, Sabatini or Hadwin? Feel like Sabs will be lower owned. Yes, Sabs will definitely be lower owned. Hadwin I have projected to be one of the top 3 highest owned players. I would still play Hadwin though.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, you look at talent and you look at where he's coming. Just don't WD Hadwin like he did to us last time.
Hey, at least he WD'd on like a Tuesday.
That's true.
That's a good man move on his part.
Yeah, not the Grayson Murray like screw this, I'm done. You got to go Hadwin there. I like current form. Yes, I mean you're seeing Sabatini on these leaderboards, so I can see where that question's coming from. But if you take a talent, how this course sets up for a guy like Hadwin, I really like him here. It's one of my favorite plays. He's probably my most heavily owned guy, so I would go with Hadwin there.
And it really comes down to, like, look, I'm playing 20 lineups, so I'm going to use both of them. I have Hadwin weighted more than I have Sabatini because I know that he's going to be higher owned, and I like him a little bit more. But, I mean, that's the benefit of being able to play the 20 lineups is I can mix and match with some of the guys that I like. I mean, there's so many players that, like, you're going to like a lot of guys. So you have to figure out who do you like the least. And those are 2 guys that I do kind of prefer this week. But if it was a single entry, I'd eat the chalk and just take Hadwin. It was a lot like last week. Just eat the chalk and go with it. I like Kevin Na this week, too, by the way. Do you?
Yeah, so do I. I think when you look at his pricing, look at where he's at. He played well last week. So again, that was a lot of it had to do with how cheap he was. But Kevin Na in that area, again, we're talking about guys in that high 7, mid 7 that can be chalk. If you want to box out Hadwin chalk there, you got Kevin Na just a couple $100 more. That's not a bad place. So I'm going to be playing some Kevin Na too, just because I think there is going to be a lot of Stricker and Hoffman play, so I'm going to be playing Kevin Na as well.
All right. Brian asks, fade Spieth or not to fade Spieth? I'm going to be using Jordan Spieth this week. Just I'm going to keep using him until he wins because every week you see his ownership just go blue, blue, blue. And eventually he's going to be like 10%. And that's the week he's going to win. I actually think he'll still be relatively popular this week just based on a first, second track record the last 3 years. And now that we're back on bent, some people will be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt with the putter that could come back around. But I still like him here. He's not my favorite of the top end. Rahm is, but Spieth would be second.
Yeah, same with me. I think with Spieth, right, it's the sort of the Rory effect, right? If you played him once and you played him on tracks that potentially he wasn't good at or he wasn't putting well or current form, you're playing him until he can pop, right? He's one of the top 5 players in the world, and he's one of the best here. So for me, I would go Spieth a little over Rahm. Obviously, Ricky Fowler is going to be heavily owned as well. I just can't put my finger on Rose. Obviously, he's here because of the PGA requirements to play one tournament every 4 years. So I'm not too sure how motivated he is, but you would think, right, this course sets up nicely for Rose. I just don't know what to do with him. Yeah,
so I guess that brings us to the next question in the chat. Michael asks, hey, Pat, who are you full fading right off the bat in this tourney? And unfortunately, Justin Rose is one of those guys. He's a nice pivot play because I think that he'll be the lowest owned of the top 5 guys, but it's not going to entice me into him. I'm not playing any Webb. I'm not playing any Rose right off the hop. Who else am I not playing? I'm not playing any Aaron Wise. I'm not playing any Adam Scott. Not playing Charles because he WD'd. No Duffner for me, although he's a decent pivot, as is Louis, who I'm not playing. I'm not playing Chesson Hadley. That's a stance that I'm making, which could really come back to bite me in the ass. But, hey, here we go. No Ollie, no Hoffman, no Piercy. So some of those lower-end not chalk, but like double-digit ownership type guys that I'm just kind of going away from this week. But I'm not playing a lot of shares of Spieth. I think I have 15% Spieth. I have 15% Fowler. So I'll be underweight to the field, but I'll be massively overweight on Rahm and Brooks and DeChambeau.
Yeah, for me, that guy that I'm full fading, again, like you were saying with Aaron Wise, Webb Simpson. Another guy is Jimmy Walker.
I'm playing Jimmy, actually.
God, current form says that he's going to do well here, right? He's been playing well. We're still in Texas. For me, I don't think he can keep it up. Again, that's a decision that could bite me in the ass, but I'm making a stance on those guys in that high 9K because I want to play guys like Ricky. I want to play guys like Rom, at the top there. So I'm going to have to make a stance. And then obviously with me, that's in that high to mid 9K range is where I'm making that stance. So I'm not playing any Jimmy.
Carrie asks, what are your thoughts on Chris Stroud? Made 2 straight cuts, has gained strokes on approach in both tourneys and his 3 top 15s in his past 5 trips to Colonial with just 1 missed cut. Actually sounds pretty good, to tell you the truth. And before that, Chris Stroud had lost a huge amount of strokes putting, not at the Players, but the 2 tournaments previous, had gained off the tee in 2 of his past 3 events. So he's actually quite a good play. I hadn't done a ton of research onto Stroud until this kind of came up, and I went and looked at it. So yeah, if you want to use Chris Stroud, I've already kind of got my lineups in. Maybe I'll tinker with it because that's a very compelling case. Good call on Chris Stroud.
Yeah, actually, another guy down there is Harkins. What's your thought on him? Because he's a guy that was standing out nicely for me, and he's right there with Stroud. So I didn't really take a look at Chris Stroud, but I can see where you're coming from there. And he's top 10 in scrambling over the past 24. So again, if you think that with these small greens and greens in regulation, if these guys aren't able to hit those greens, scrambling is going to play a part into it. I wouldn't use that as one of my core stats. But a guy like Harkins, 7th in strokes gain approach, birdie or better, he's top 25. And so that's a guy I'm potentially looking at in that 6,900 because, again, these are pseudo dart throws at this low min price or this low price.
Yeah, I just don't like the upside that Harkins presents. And when you go back, he's been making a ton of cuts, but he has no finish better than 36th over the past 3 months. Like, that's not what I really want in my lineup. I mean, listen, if you could guarantee me he came 35th at his price, I would take him. But if that's the upside that we're going to get from him, and he only has 2 missed cuts in that time, and where were they? Valspar, Heritage. And this is the similar type of course as those two, so it's just not on my radar this week.
Yeah.
Next,
just give me birdies.
Next question. What do you think about playing all balance and no one above 10K? I have 12 teams with no one above 10K. That's what I did at Heritage, and hey, line my pocket, so I can get on board with it. Elite players tend to play really well here, is one thing that I'll say about this. But I do have some, I don't want to give out my entire lineup, but I have like teams where Brooks is the most expensive player. Because I like guys like Hadwin and Griot and Bryson and Cantlay. It might be the entire team. That's 4 or 5 of the team there. I'll mix in someone else in there as well. But I get it. I think that in giant tournaments that very few people are going to take that approach, and you can load up on chalkier players that way just by doing a different build, so you don't even really need to worry about the ownership.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a great field. I think all of us can agree that this field, when you look at it, and you mentioned it earlier, is how does this tournament not have a sponsor every year? I mean, these guys, it changes every single year. This is a great field, a great course. I like to play course experience because of that, the longevity of how long this course has been here. It's only the second, I think, to Augusta in terms of consecutive places or tournaments played here. So I'm taking that course experience. And when you look at that too, with the elite players, those are the guys that I'm going in on. So yes, there's a lot of argument, and I'm the same way. There's about half my lineups start at that, sub 10K range. So I do like that approach, but I still want to get those guys at the top.
Next question comes from Tommy Goat. Tommy Goat says, can, all caps, y'all just talk about MLB? No. Matt says, Henley, 2 straight MC, but historically great player in Texas swing and rates out well in ball striking approach. GPP sleeper? I think so. I'm using like 25% Russell Henley. I think he's undervalued. Even if you take something as simplistic as odds versus DraftKings price, he rates out really well for that area.
Yeah, and he's a ball striker. I mean, same thing, right? He's a ball striker. He's at a great price. So I'm also on the Henley train as well.
Next one, Omar asks, higher ownership, Herman or Hoffman? I believe it is Hoffman.
Yeah. Same thing.
So if I go and look at the projections right now, Hoffman coming in anywhere between 10 and 14%, Herman anywhere between 7 and 11%. So it's marginal, but I like Herman a little bit better this week. Next one, What do you think Rahm's ownership will be? This is a really dicey one because when I'm looking at the projections right now, they're pretty spread out between the top 5 guys. I think that Spieth will end up being the highest owned of the top end. Potentially Ricky could be the highest owned. I think those will be your 2. And then when you just kind of break it all down, they all can't be 20% owned because you can't afford both of them in a lineup. So I would go Spieth, Ricky, Webb, Rom, Rose. That's how I would project the top end coming down. I could be completely off on that. The Fantasy National ownership projections do a good job of this. Fanshare Sports does a really good job of this if you want to check them out. But that's how I would grade it out in terms of ownership. Spieth, Ricky, Webb, Rom, Rose.
Really? You think Webb's going to be more than Rom?
I do. He's the cheapest.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just
you
think
get
when you look at
an $800. The teams that you can build with Webb Simpson 1 through 6 just on paper look a lot better than the teams that you can build with Rom. Like you're sacrificing. Like you can really get. Hell, if you go, let's see if I can do this. If you put Webb into a lineup, and like I said, I'm not using any Webb, but here's where it would. And a lot of people I feel like are going to use Webb in cash games, and Webb's a fine play. Don't get me wrong. Just I think he's going to be kind of popular because of the price. So you use Webb, you have 7,900 left. That means you could theoretically use DeChambeau, who's also chalky, Griot, who's also chalky. Then you can go down. You can use JJ Spawn if you want. You can use Adam Hadwin, and you have $7,400 left over, and you can use Russell Henley if you like.
Yeah.
And
that's the all chalk team right there.
That's a team that you can make if you start with Webb Simpson. If you start with Rom, then you start getting into the Wes Bryans of the world, and then you start dipping below the Kadairas.
Great teammates.
Yeah, but then you can't have like Griot and DeChambeau like as the top $8,000 guys, and that just becomes tough. So that's why I think that Webb will be higher owned than Rom, but I can be completely wrong on that.
Yeah, I just think in terms of, and you might be right, but when you look at his second or third place, his top finish last year, and a guy who historically wouldn't necessarily do well. You look at this field, I think Rom, they'll do that pivot off of Spieth and do the same sort of logic where you say, well, I can save 700 and I can get one of the top players in the world. But yeah, again, when you're trying to project ownership, it's obviously difficult. We can give our projections, obviously, but when you look at that, I think, I don't think it's going to be too far off what you just said.
Extremely triggered by Cuss selection of Patrick Cantlay. Why? I don't know. It makes me feel bad, too. That's why I dumped some more shares onto Bryce and took some off of Cantlay.
Yeah. I just saw his tweet when he said that he tweeted out a Hackenberg.
Yeah.
And then 2 hours later, he was traded off to the Raiders. But yeah, if you feel the curse is real, go off on him and change him to Scott.
I actually do. I like I said, I prefer Cantlay to Scott. I think that Cantlay's still a fine play this week. I just happen to like Bryson better. Pat, I have Xander in many lineups, and I keep looking at it and not feeling comfortable. Any pivot suggestions, or do you like X this week? I do like X this week. I like Kisner. Like I said, I like Xander for like single entries just a little bit more because I think that he'll be less chalkier than Kevin Kisner. I like both of them, so you can go onto them. I don't think that either one of them is going to be highly owned, but if you want like a super ownership pivot, just go up to Louis or down to Ollie. Those are the two guys in that spot, but I just prefer X and Kisner way more.
Yeah, and I would ask, why are you afraid of X? Is it current form? Potentially, but he came second at the Players. He obviously putts better on bent, so I actually like X in this spot. So I would ask myself, okay, well, why am I scared of Xander in this spot? Is it because guys at that price are a little bit better? I would say no. Again, you can make a case for any one of these guys really being one of the cornerstones of your outside of Louis. I think you could make a case, but I do really like X at that low 8K price just because of his talent.
Next question from Jordan. Are you worried about Kisner's form, or does this course get him going again? I'm working on the impression this course will get him going again. Like I mentioned, the form has been bad, but at courses where he's played well at before, short courses, he's been coming up gold for everyone. So I'm going to bite the bullet with Kisner and just ride out his bad form.
Yeah, and you're getting a past winner here. And look, like we said, this is not a Pete Dye course, but it really shapes up as one where you got to hit it precision spots off the tee, and the approach game is a core key statistic that you have to do well here. And putting. And when you look at Kisner and when he plays well, the two tournaments that he's played well are on corollaries this season. So I'm going to play that. Again, this is a tournament that I'm leaning in a little bit more in course experience, and Kisner kind of fits that mold.
Trade Elkins. I'm finding myself drawn to a bunch of shares of Sammy Burns. Crazy? Oh, God, no. I love me some Sammy Burns this week. Dial up some Sam Burns. At these types of courses, and he won in Savannah, and that's not even included in his stats because it was on the web.com. I feel like he's a big boy player. I really do. And no one's really noticed yet.
Well, and when you can putt well, you can really salvage quite a bit. And who's number one? Sammy Burns. And so don't be too afraid of playing the burn, because He's a guy that at that 7,200 price, we can construct quite a bit of lineups with Sammy Burns. So I like that play quite a bit.
Yeah, let's see. I have 25% Sam Burns this week. Maybe that's not true. I was looking at total entries, not unique lineups. I have 20% Sam Burns this week. And like Kevin Streelman's right there as well. And the next question's about him. What do you think about Kevin Streelman? Why is he so cheap? I think it's just the putting. And even when you look at his history here, like last year he gained 7 strokes on approach at this tournament. And I think he came 15th. Let me see. Fort Worth. He came 18th, gained 7.1 strokes on approach against this field, and he putted positively. Like he has a bad course history. That's why he's so low. 18th miscut, 58th miscut, coming off a disastrous performance when he was chalk. Heritage, yep. I want to say, maybe it was Wells Fargo. I forget. Either way, I think he's the right skill set. He's an awful putter, and he's a worse putter on bent grass than any other surface. That's why I'm avoiding Streelman here.
Yeah, and his par 3 game is not. It's pretty atrocious. His par 4 game though is trending, I think. So I do like Streelman, but where he's actually gaining strokes is on par 5s, and that's really in terms of his. When you look at his archetype, if you look at his style, it doesn't really fit the mold here. It doesn't fit the mold of that type of player. So I'm going to be off on Streelman, and plus other guys in that area I like a little bit more.
Next question about 2 sleepers. Pats, Eric asked, thoughts on Ben Crane and the dear brother Seamus Power for GPP Flyers. I don't love their upsides particular, but I think they do work with the motif of really great putters. Seamus Power has been lights out on the greens, and it really hasn't translated into anything, so if the rest of his game can catch up, he's going to be pretty good, and Crane, we know, is an excellent putter. They just don't have the upside that I'm really looking for. I would prefer Crane over Power, though.
Same here. In my mixed model, Crane is top 15, so I do like that as a shot in the dark. But again, you're really taking a dart throw, and there's other guys in that price range that if it's a pure bet, I think there's other plays that would go. But if we're playing DraftKings, if we're putting them in our lineup, I do like Crane at that 6,900 price.
Stephen Paul asked, do you feel golfers without DK profile picks serve as strong ownership pivots against the balding vets? I kind of do, actually. It's just like guys that have played in a few tournaments, but they have a really high cut-made percentage. People are all over those guys. When Trey Mulligan jackassed around in the sand, the leaderboard was littered with faceless talent. Trey Mullinix, not Trey Mulligan, unless that's a clever pun, and if it is, congratulations. I actually think that there are weird biases that go into how people select teams, but I think that the golf DraftKings market has become sharp enough that we don't even see it with recency bias anymore. Like guys, if a guy has a bad week, people are like, he had a bad week, let's go back to him. He's still, when we look at his overall body of work, he's just doing much better. I'm still going to have faith. Yeah,
same thing. I mean, when you talk about, especially if guys that are using Fantasy National, there's so much information out there. And again, we can run through the statistics quite a bit and say, okay, because of X, Y, and Z, this guy's going to play well. If you have a gut feeling on a guy, play that guy, because that could also be right. Ben Raza, he's another guy that, does pretty well. And he always says, I have gut feelings about these guys, and it could pan out. So again, don't only read into the statistics. Yes, you can fall in love with the cuts made and the average DK points that you're going to get, but obviously there's other ways that you can construct a lineup.
And one of the big things with that too is where are they scoring their DK points at? Because you don't know what the field is. If they're not playing like the Masters, then maybe they're just playing against garbage fields. And this field actually correlates more with really strong fields that we've seen throughout the season. So you have to put those numbers into some context, which on the DK site they don't. And some people are like, oh, perfect, cuts made. Maybe he played. It's like when you see some of the international players who come over and they've only played WGCs. Well, that gives them a cut made, despite the fact that there was no cut. So you got to figure some of that stuff out. If you're in the chat, please leave some more questions for Reid and I, and while I have your attention, give the episode a like, thanks. Next question, Scott says, Hoffman has been popping in my model, mostly due to greens and regulation gained over the past 24 rounds. Thoughts? This is a difficult course to look at when it comes to greens and regulation gained, only because the approach shots are going to be from a shorter distance than most courses, and these greens are a lot tinier. So one of the things that I like to do on Fantasy National is just select the different courses. Hey, and futureoffantasy.com is a really good resource for finding the average size of greens, all that type of stuff, and just correlate those courses. How does he do on those? I don't mind Charlie this week. I just hate that he's not hitting a ton of fairways, and that's usually like his jam.
Yeah, I like him on courses where off the tee is a little bit better. I maybe in terms of around majors, he does up his game a little bit, but we're still a month out to Shinnecock. So yeah, again, if I'm explaining these type of statistics and this logic for Hoffman, I'm not too confident in him. But again, I've been off on Hoffman in quite a bit of tournaments, and he's burned me. So yeah, I'm willing to eat my pride again because there's some other guys that I like.
Kyle with like 18 questions in a row. Thoughts on Brian Herman? Rewind, already touched it. Huh? Or Sync? Already touched on it. I think Cooch is a brilliant play this week, especially after he screwed everyone last week in a great price tag. Do you agree? I do happen to agree, actually. I think this might be the first time we don't see like the chalkiest Matt Kuchar in the world, which is hilarious because he's way down in price. And this is exactly where you want to use Matt Kuchar, coming off a bad week at a reasonable price where he doesn't have to win. He just needs the top 10. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Especially if you're talking about balance, right? Kuchar is a guy, with these type of courses, perfect, right? He could be one of the cornerstones of a balanced lineup. We usually see that lower price at majors, right? Kuchar is like fucking mid sevens, which is a beautiful play, and then it becomes chalk. But when you get him up in this 10K, high 8 or low 10K, that's the stuff where we start to say, well, Kuchar might not pan out. He's a tough play in those positions. But again, at this course, I do really like Kuchar. I think he's playing well. His strokes gain approach, he's just outside the top 25 over the last 24. So I do like Kuchar.
Betting Bartender, welcome back to the show, my friend. Pat and Reed, much love to you, sir. Any love for Nicholas Lindheim this week? No, not for me.
No.
Next question. Any thoughts on this from Kyle again? Any thoughts on Haas? He's been playing terribly, but has a great course history. And like you said, it's a Pete Dye type layout. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I've just been rolling with Haas, and it's just been making me look so foolish in ruining all my lineups that I'm gonna use my recency bias and not play Bill Haas this week. Can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm going to be playing Bill Haas, probably going to get burned. But I just, again, when you talk about a course with a strong field, courses where you kind of have to plot right. We've seen Colonial play really easy where Zach Johnson, was shot, minus
21. Minus 21. Yeah.
But then you see Kisner with minus 10. So we could see, I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. And I do like Haas. It's just, you have to eat that inconsistency. And I'm willing to do that this week.
Thoughts on Sung Kang? It's got to be Kang. No. If he was putting better, I would like it, but that's usually what he does well. He's not even doing that well. I'd rather use. Listen, if we're gonna take Asian players from below $7,000, I think he's below $7,000. I'd use CT Pan. Actually, I'd use Satoshi Kodaira because that is who I'm using.
But now, so you can't. I mean, if you use Kodaira, it's like you're. But if he doesn't win, now if he wins, again, this is the guy that you should never ever use again. But yeah, if I'm using an Asian player below 7K, it's going to be Kodaira.
Yeah, or John American Asian descent player. I do like him as well. If Kodaira was a play at Herbertown, surely a play here. I agree. And you don't need much of him. I have him projected at 1%. So I have him in 2 of 20 lineups, just like I did at Herbertown. And let's go. I hope the other 5 guys come through when he's wearing the stupid jacket again. Next one. Yeah. Will Snedeker be less than 5% owned? I would say yes.
Yeah, he burned a lot of people. So yeah, I could easily see, again, Snedeker is another player who, he's a corollary for this type of course. If you look at where he is though in that price, I think a lot of people, Danny Lee might get a bump too, right? He's been playing nicely of late. So I would say Snedeker would be a little bit higher on than 5% in my opinion, just because of that name value in that price range. And this is the type of course that sets up for him.
Brian, if you're watching and you have not liked It Is the Reason That Pat Mayo Cries at Night, it's true. Please give it a like. I might start crying right now.
What the hell?
Nicholas asks, is there a proximity range that many players will be approaching from 125 to 150 and or 150 to 175? I can actually tell you what the complete distribution is because, hey, my main man, FantasyNational.com, has this sort of stuff for everyone. Just let me pull it up here. I don't like to look at proximity ranges, honestly. You can see the distribution all you want, but you don't know how particular players are going to attack particular courses. You have different driving distances off, different club lengths, and maybe they're more comfortable with a longer club length. You just never know with these type of things because it's not going to be the same for every single player. That it just makes it really tough in that regard. So once I pull up those stats, I'm just trying to wade through everything. Course breakdown. Let's see what we get up to. We're using a lot of streaming internet here right now, so so it's a bit tough.
Oh.
Well, listen, I'm streaming, you're streaming, we're streaming live. Just a whole lot of streaming. Let's go.
You gotta go old school with the Ethernet.
I wish. We had a crap out on us at one point. We still haven't got it fixed. So,
Nice.
yeah, not great. RH asks, thoughts on Pat Perez and Nick Watney, please? Thank you for saying please. I'm not using either of them, but I prefer Pat Perez.
Same with me. Nick Watney, I think, is a decent play if you want to potentially go first round, but upside is not. Actually, Pat Perez has a little bit more upside in terms of birdies or better gains. So I would actually go Perez in that spot just because of the talent, especially where he's at.
Let's see. Average shot distribution. What is that? Does it give me a percentage? No, it doesn't. But it looks like, it doesn't look like. The majority, not the majority, but the plurality of approach shots come from 150 to 175. Then it's evenly distributed between 125 and 150 and 175 and 200. And those three are overwhelmingly the most. Like the 200 plus are way down. The 100 to 125 are way down. They're about the same. So it just kind of looks like this when you put them in the middle. So if you want to see the graph. Next question, Kyle. Jesus, Kyle, got a lot of questions, pal. Thanks for always tuning in and asking questions. There are 7 par 4s, 400 to 450 yards over the past 24 rounds. Grayson Murray is number 2. Any update on why he withdrew this week? Sneaky play. I do think he's a sneaky play. I'm not using him. I have no idea why he withdrew. I assume because he was playing like shit. I don't like him at courses where he's not going to be hitting driver on every hole. Maybe he will, like John Rahm so successfully did last year, but I have a bit more faith in guys like John Rahm than Grayson Murray. I do like Grayson over the long term. This just isn't a course where I'll be attacking him at.
Yeah, and for me, if I'm looking at that specific and I want to filter in who's the top, I want guys that also have the ancillary, not just gaining strokes on par 4, but can he hit it on the green? Can he make putts? Can he, convert birdie or better gains? So that's also, take it with a grain of salt. I think in terms of my stat model, par 4 scoring in general was a big one, just because obviously with the par 71, you have the majority of that being where the strokes are going to be gained. So I like a guy like DeChambeau, who's, yes, he's a better player, I think, right now than Grayson Murray. And you're right. If Grayson Murray is not on a course we can really leverage his driver, then it's going to be tough to play him.
Caleb says Xander was trending upwards in strokes gained approach. I know it's early on. He was losing strokes on approach, but maybe that was due to his club change. That is a very good point. Let me look up Xander's trends here. I know he's been better lately. Let's see. Over the past, where is it? Where's the hell strokes gained approach? Over the past 24 rounds, he's 8th in strokes gained approach in this field. So it's been going significantly better for Xander Schauffele in that game. And again, like I said, historically a better bent putter than Bermuda putter. He's a career negative Bermuda putter and a huge positive. He gains over 0.5 strokes per round on the greens on Bermuda grass. So yeah, let's see, he gained 5.5 strokes at the Players, lost marginally at Wells, lost marginally at Valero, gained a bunch at Heritage, gained a bunch at WGC Mexico, gained a bunch at Genesis, gained a bunch in Phoenix. So yeah, I think that he is trending towards the right spot, and the putting has been atrocious. Like, even at the Players, he lost over a stroke putting. If he just swings that back the other way, and let's say he's a positive stroke putting, he wouldn't have caught up to Webb, but he would have been solo second, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Ponderosa Sports playing 20 lineups, going heavy on Koepka, Rose, and Spieth. Thoughts? I like it. I'm not using Rose, but if you want to use Rose instead of Rahm, I think that makes a lot of sense to me. And you can go overweight on Rose a lot easier than you can go overweight on Webb, on Ricky, and Rahm probably. So I think that makes sense if those are the guys that you want to go into.
Yeah, I think it's a good play. Like I said, I think Rose is a talent. He sets up well here. You can't really dive into what he's thinking and why he's here. But at the same time, despite that, these guys are professionals. And so I do like Rose as that potential pivot. And I do like those three.
Michael J. Fitch asks, Hadwin will miss the cut. Lol. That's not fucking funny, pal. Get the fuck out of the chat. Kyle says, fade Walker with his low off the tee stats and his so-so course history. Well, when I ran the regression, strokes gained off the tee were worth 1/3 of what strokes gained approach were. In fact, it's not super significant this week. Hitting fairways will be, and if you look at Jimmy Walker, he gained at the Players. So at the last 2 courses where he had to hit driver, the last 3 that he had to hit driver, Byron Nelson, Valero, and Arnold Palmer, he lost off the tee. At the last 2 shorter courses he played at, the Players and Valspar, he actually gained off the tee. So I think when you take the driver out of Jimmy's hands, he can hit more fairways, and he's not going to lose there. And if he does lose there, or he is around field field average. I won't think it's that big of a deal. What I'm more concerned about, the hot putting, hot around the greens, and spicy with them irons. That's why I like Jimmy Walker here. How do you feel about talented players coming in with poor form, i.e. Harman and Perez? Talked about them both already, not using Perez, using Brian Harman. What about Cantlay? I already talked about him. He's Anderhurst. This Fitch guy just says Spieth. It's like he can't use sentences. That must be real nice. Oh my God, there's too many questions from him. Why fade Adam Scott? He's not invited to the U.S. Open, so he's highly motivated. They're all highly motivated. I don't really play that game. With so many good plays in the 8K range plus Hadwin, a mid-range lineup seems to me like it would have relatively the same win equity as the Stars and Scrubs lineup. Thoughts? It depends on who you're taking. Like, the win equity on guys like Spieth and Rahm are substantially higher than all those guys this week, and even Ricky Fowler. So those guys are a huge boost over that middle tier. That's why I like Brooks so much. I think that Brooks has the best win equity of all those guys below $10,000 just based on his skills, and I just feel like he's underpriced this week. Listen, the balanced lineup is a fine lineup. I know most people are going to go above 10K, and I think that you can do that this week. That's why I would do it.
Yeah, and with the stronger field, right, you can the win equity is spread, in a decent amount as opposed to in a weaker field like last week. And so you could find win equity in a lot of different places in a tournament like this, like we see in the majors, right? Like we see in some of these other strong field WGCs, because there are talented players in all these different price ranges. So yes, balanced lineup. It's really going to come down to, in my opinion, when you look at guys who can strike with their approach. And so that would be my only addition to that is look at guys. Yes, there's win equity everywhere, so that shouldn't be your only thing that you talk about. It should be a tiebreaker, but look and hone in on those key statistics along with your custom model.
Next question is from Nicholas. Who is the safest player in a double up that is 7.7 thousand or under? And the next question is besides Hadwin. Well, Hadwin would have been my answer. Let's see. Sabatini, maybe? I mean,
safest?
He makes all the cuts.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I mean, if we're talking about, safe and getting points all 4 days, yeah. I mean, Snedeker maybe, but he has an 82 in his back pocket potentially. So, yeah, I'll probably go Sabatini if not Hadwin.
Leviathan 1888 asks, talk to me about Sam Burns. Thoughts? Already did. Gotta hit rewind. Thoughts on Trey Mullinax this week? I just prefer him at courses where he can bomb the shit out of the course, and he can't do that here. So, fade for me. Could be wrong, but fade. What do you think about Hadley winning or top 5 for a one and done? I'm fading Hadley, so I really hope that doesn't happen, but I know a lot of people are on board with that, Feinberg included. I can see it. I don't think it's a bad play, but that's one of the spots where I'm choosing to make a stand and just avoiding it.
Yeah, I think it's something that, Hadwin, are we getting too cute with that? Probably not, right? He's a great play. He's my core play, so my one and done. I would also have Hadwin.
No, Hadley.
Oh, Hadley. I wouldn't. He's not a guy that I like playing that much. So
which
for
sucks
me,
because he's very good.
I know, and that's probably why I'm not in the Pat Mayo kitchen renovation money yet. But for me, I'm not going to be on it, and I'm not going to be in on Chesson at that one and done. I think there's other guys that I feel a little bit more confident with. And again, if he's not hitting greens, his scrambling game is atrocious. So I'm going to be off on Hadley again. Going to bite me in the ass probably, but not for me.
Charles Goldman just gives dude, this lineup or this lineup. I'm not here to pick your teams for you. Just you pick your teams and be on your way. Ryan, not much talk on Kuchar. Last week's MC doesn't bother me. Thoughts? We just went over Kuchar probably 10 minutes ago.
Yep.
Not putting in the Pete Dye correlation. Pete Dye uses contours. That's great, Eric. Then I don't care. I can do whatever I want. You can do whatever you want. They're shorter tracks. That's my whole point. Yep. Pat and Kazire are worth a look here. Recent form is shit, but seems to play better in less than driver courses. Price seems low. Long-term model has him outpacing his price range. That's close to a sentence. Raza and I talked about this on yesterday's show. I get it. I completely understand it. I'm just too big of a goober to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I mean, he was hot. He won at Sony, which is another short course. So I can see the corollaries there. I just don't like his current form and, experience here. I don't like I just don't like where he's coming in at. And so I'm going to be off on Pat Kazire.
KJ Smith, thoughts on JT Poston? I'm off of him.
Yeah, off on him as well.
Good for him recently, though. I get it.
Yeah.
Nick S., who would you guys pick for a one-and-done, Griot, Bryson, or Jimmy Walker? I mean, I list this on Facebook.com/thepme and talk about it on my show when we talk about one-and-dones. But I'm going to go Bryson.
I think I've used Grillo and Bryson, so I'm going to go Walker there.
You know who's a decent one-and-done play here that no one's going to use, I don't think? Kuchar.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, like again, right? He's probably the guy that's being forgotten the most, and who plays well on these type of courses. It's Kuchar. He's a decent play. Yeah.
Thoughts on Danny Lee as a pivot? Hate to break it to you, I think people are going to be owning Danny Lee.
Yeah, especially when now he's got current form. People have seen him on leaderboards. People are going to be playing Lee.
I do like Danny Lee. I don't want to say that I don't like Danny Lee, but I don't think he's a pivot off Hadwin, who's going to be the highest owned guy, but
right.
He might be like the second highest owned guy down there. Cam Smith might be the pivot off those guys because Spawn's going to carry a lot of ownership there too.
Yeah, I mean, again, Danny Lee is someone who falls off the face of the earth and then pops in some of these tournaments. Obviously, you want to get him before he pops because he'll be 1 or 2% owned. But you're going to see that bump because of his current form. Again, at that price range, you see Woo's right there as well. These are a couple guys that could pop in at 7,500 if you want to take that pivot off of Hadwin. If you want to box out 25% ownership, those guys are decent plays because of their current form. So I do like Danny Lee in this situation.
Next one, how did you get Jason Day on the show? There you were.
Hey, buddy.
Right,
it's Pat Mail's got a lot of pull. So I know my Australian accent has left me, but gotta give a thumbs up for the Pat Mail.
Spencer S. Mayo, you are secretly in love with Desham. Wow. I don't think that's a secret. Jeff asked, if you get friend zoned like Aaron Wise did, would she still be your friend? Do you think that Pat Mayo gets friend zoned? Please. That's ridiculous.
Look at that.
Martin Pla is the bomb of the week. 250 to 1. Jump on it. LOL.
No.
Thank you for your contribution.
No.
Grayson Murray is a D-bag. I caddied for him. I think that's pretty well known. It doesn't mean he can't score DraftKings points.
Interesting.
Two-man core this week with most lineups is Reevy and Spawn. Give me some wiggle room at the top. I mean, I think we went over who we like at the top, so just rewind. Paul, who are you using in the one and done? People are asking you.
You just gave away my secret.
You're using Kuchar?
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul's using Kuchar. He's in third place in the one and done.
I was going to say, right, Paul's third place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul's been fire in this one and done.
Just listen to Paul in one and dones. Yeah, he's third place.
Thanks for giving it away.
No problem. People are just going to start, well, that's right. You want everyone to tail you now because if everyone tails you, they can't catch up to you.
You're a step ahead of me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what you want. You want to be setting the pace now. Mario. What's up, guys? The chance Sabatini pulls a Grayson from last week and kills my core lineup. Grayson killed my core lineup as well. I don't know if he's going to WD. I mean, it's in the cards. He's still Rory Sabatini, but he's just shown such good form. And unlike Grayson, it's not like he peaks and then valleys. He's just been uber consistent all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, is there a narrative out there that because he's older, he might be, fatigued? I mean, again, you're searching, you're really pulling for straws here when you're saying, is this guy going to WD or not? We have no clue. I mean, yes, if he was injured and there were things and reports out there that say that, he's this and that and the other, but even then, right, you're pulling at straws. So don't worry too much about that. Play Sabs if you like him.
15-minute warning on questions, so we're going to really try to start rapid fire going through this. Again, give the episode a like. I only see 62 likes. I know there's more people watching than that. Please. The other guy, like he said, it's going to make me cry. I don't want to cry. As you can see, I'm trying to shrink myself down here. I'm dehydrating myself. I don't have the tears to spare. So please help me out there. Let's see. I got to tweet this out again. 15-minute warning just to get more people in. 15-minute warning. And exclamation points.
All caps.
All caps. It's on the Pat Mayo brand. There we go. Joseph, what's the reason you guys are off Rose? I think I missed it. Say hi to your neighbor, Marge Atwood. Marge Atwood. I hate Margaret Atwood. She is my neighbor, too, and she's the absolute worst. She hates the little people. She's a real Hollywood big shot. Now I'm getting off track with the rapid fire. Rose didn't fit in for me. In the way that I power ranked the guys over $10,000, he was fourth for me. I only used 3 of them, so he got cut.
Yeah, I think he might be he's probably my third or fourth place. So, I'm not going to be too much onto him. Maybe a couple lineups.
I just missed it here. Thoughts on Anherban Lahiri? Man, people love talking up Anherban Lahiri. Where did the question go here? I hate when it just rolls up the Nicholas. Has anyone asked about Anherban Lahiri? I'm not interested. It's just a tradition for someone to ask him about him at this point. Okay, you all take Anherban Lahiri and enjoy that.
Please. Yeah, please.
Mark, Austin Cook's numbers have been pretty strong all year. Seems like a solid spot he could break out. Crazy to go overweight on him. Well, to go overweight on Austin Cook means you need to have him in one of 20 lineups, so probably not all that crazy. I am using Austin Cook in around 15% of my lineups.
Yeah, same here. I mean, you see he won RSM, so that's another course corollary, so I like him here.
Chesson is solid. Thanks for wasting time. Did you talk about Bo Hostler yet? Dude can putt. Yeah, I talked about him right off the top, but I'll expand a little bit more, and that's the reason that I am on him. People really liked Bo Hostler last week, and he disappointed until the very end of the fourth round when he made 5 consecutive birdies to end it. If he can keep that putter hot, we don't care that it's still a Texas narrative with Bo Hostler because he had one mediocre week. He was Andercursed. Always play the reverse Andercurse guys the week after. That's a move right there. I do like Bo Hostler.
Yeah, I just realized that he was Andercursed, and you always got to play that angle. Yeah, the putting, the Texas narrative is there. I just haven't looked into him. I was looking a little bit more on Piercy in that range, but yeah, Hostler is a fantastic play in that. If you want to, especially if you want to pivot off of guys like Harmon, if you want to pivot off of Hadwin at 76, pay a little up.
Nicholas says, for some reason, I don't know what that is. Skip the question. Mark asks, how about Sharma at 7.2? I like Sharma. He's another one of those guys in that lower core, along with Burns, along with Russell Henley. I have fewer shares of him. I believe I played him at 10%. But everyone just kind of, we love Neiman. We love all these new guys. We love Aaron Wise. Sharma's pretty good himself, and I kind of like him at these more accurate courses than I do at the bombing courses.
Yeah, he played well against a tough field at WGC, so I like him here as well.
Yeah, and that's going to be a shorter style course like this one's going to be. Andrew Landry asks Anthony. I didn't even really think about Landry here. It could make sense. I'm not going to use him. Do you have any thoughts on him?
I mean, I was looking more into him. It's just at this rate, you think that when guys win, there might be some hangover. I don't, in that price range. Yeah, I went off on Landry, so I'm not going to have any shares of Landry.
Xander and Hadley are the same price on. Fuck's wrong with you? Where do you think you're watching this? Thoughts on Duffner? I'm not using Duffner. Raza was really big on Duffner. He has a second place here back when it was the Crown Plaza, and he was on a hot run through everything. I think it makes sense. He's going to hit fairways. He's going to hit greens in regulation. He's been putting a lot better this year. I probably should be using him now that I think about it. I don't know why I'm not. Just Bryson got all my shares. And then Grillo. If you wanted to fade Grillo, which I don't recommend, but let's say you did. Let's say you're not as sold on him as I am. Duffner is the perfect guy to go on to there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Duffner is going to be what? Less than 10%?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, easy. So, yes, he's a fine pivot. Obviously, the guy's got talent. He's a major winner. So, yes, tough field, short course. You hit fairways, hit greens. He's a guy that you want.
Who is a top 10 shocker this week? I hope it's Wes Bryan for my sake. But Sam Burns, I'll give you as my top 10 shocker.
Yeah, Wes Bryan is a nice play. I wasn't really on him until you guys were talking about him yesterday with Raza. But, I mean, a shocker? Next question.
Scott asks thoughts about Sean O'Hare. We covered him a little bit earlier on, but just very quickly, I'm off of him. I get why people are on him. He does rate out pretty well, especially at these shorter courses. I don't know. I just don't want to do it with Sean O'Hare.
Yeah, you might get the Sean O'Hare chalk, which is, 10%, which is maybe a little bit too much for Sean O'Hare.
Next one, Ponderosa Sports, 25% Piercy. Too much? Not if you like Scott Piercy. That sounds like a very reasonable amount.
Well, and especially if you're if you're playing 4 lineups or 10 lineups, 25%, it's not a lot, right? That's not, I mean, you're going to be overweight on Piercy if you got 25%, but that approach game is so enticing. He's great with his approaches. He just cannot putt. So you have to eat that risk.
Trevor, late joined Xander a play after his T2 at the Players. Yes, we covered him a whole bunch of times if you want to listen back and hear a bigger explanation. But yes, we're both in on him. Abraham Ansa, hardly knew her to make the cut. Yeah, maybe. I'm not an answer whisperer. I have no answers on answer. But people seem to like him, and he continues to play all right.
Yeah, I mean, he played decently first round, but then, kind of answered his way out of it. So I'm not on answer. No, wait.
Is Ryan Palmer... Fuck, it just skipped on me again. Is Ryan Palmer going to be low owned? Solid course history. Yes. He's listed in my pivots up on dkplaybook.com. I will not be using him. He's actually a member at Colonial, but that is not really something to dive into too much. Sometimes that could be a massive disadvantage for you just because the course is not set up a lot of the same ways that it would be when you normally play it. Now you're playing with tour conditions. Bit tougher.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of water for Ryan Palmer to go into, so that's always a bonus. Listen, if you want to play him, play him. He is going to be like 2% owned.
Yeah, I mean his ball striking is enticing, but a guy like near his price range is Chris Kirk. So I'm gonna be playing Kirk a little bit more than Palmer.
Jumping back on Laird after his horrendous Byron Nelson. I mean, I should. I'm not, but I get it.
Nope, no party Marty for me.
CT Pan, player no for me because I'm not playing him, but he does actually rate out quite well. But I didn't want to use too many guys from sub 7,000 in that range in general.
Same. I mean, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but sub 7K, I like Kadira.
Yeah, me too. Kyle asks again, is 25% Watney too much Watney? I would think so because I'm using none, but if you like Watney, again, that's a pretty, 25% for a guy that's like, if you have to ask yourself, is it too much? 50% is probably too much, unless you just love Nick Watney. But yeah, I really should be playing him because I do like players. And we saw it with Just Wise, and we've seen this a few times. And usually it leads to when players trend a little bit, that if they come second the week before, a few weeks before, they're guys to always keep on the radar because the form flash and maybe they can keep it going. And they've just been through that process of the final round that maybe they can close this time around. So I understand the Watney logic. I just don't like him.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Watney, he's playing better of recent. But before the last Watney was he was off everyone's radar. So yes, I would say current form. You want to play that angle, of course, because it's logic. If they're playing well right now, play them. But at the same time, Watney is to me not a guy that I want to fit into my lineups, just because of where he's priced. I think there's better options out there.
Richard, when I look at the Stat Fairways game, the top 10 is a list of 7K players in Grillo. How could that be? Well, you have to kind of separate it by course sometimes too. That's why the mixed condition model works so well, because you can allocate courses with tinier fairways, shorter courses. The reason that is because we've been just seeing a string of bombers courses where guys just bomb and don't care if they hit the fairway or not.
Yeah, and this type of course, there are tree-lined fairways, so you're obviously going to want to stay out of the trees. But these guys are clubbing down too. Right, they're not hitting drivers; they're hitting 3-woods, driving irons. So obviously, you're going to be more accurate with those type of clubs, and so take it with a grain of salt.
Caleb, Hadley or Kisner? I mean, we've answered that question 8 times. I'm not playing Hadley. I'm playing Kisner. Thoughts on ZJ? I like Zach Johnson here. I'm surprised it's the first time he's came up. I kind of wanted to talk about Zach Johnson, a former 2-time winner here, putting really well. The approaches are really good. This is a perfect style of course for him. What could go wrong? I wish I hadn't said that.
Yeah, I mean, again, putting well. I think Zach Johnson has always been a fantastic putter, fantastic with his wedges. Keeps the ball in the fairway, and he's playing better. He's coming to a course that he's obviously done well at, winning 2 times, top 25 in strokes gained approach over the last 24 rounds. Yeah, give me some Zach Johnson, especially if you want to temper some of that chalk off a grill. Zach Johnson is always a popular play, especially when you get on these short courses, and so you're not going to get too much relief, but I like Zach.
MP, Pat, who is your must-fade chalk play so I can play him? Screw you, MP. Piece of garbage. Trying to make me feel bad over here. I'm providing a free chat. You come in. It's not nice.
It doesn't have any more tears,
you're
guys.
You're a bad person, MP. Live with that. All right? Live with it. Bad person. I don't want to wish bad things to happen to you because I don't like to do that thing, but it probably will because it's bad karma. How about that? And you can just rewind about who I said I'm fading already, so go back and give the extra click. Should books take bets on Duffner's hat? Yes, I agree. Duffner a GPP play. That is not even a question. That's just a statement. Asswagon misses or makes the cut. I really don't care. What's the word on Grayson Murray WD? No idea. PJ doesn't have to release this sort of stuff. I think he was just playing like crap, so he withdrew. Do you like guys like Smith or Sneds for the week? Both 7.5K, of course. I like Cam Smith. I'm using him. I'm not using Snedeker. Are you using Snedeker?
Yeah, I'm using a couple Snedekers. I like both of them.
Okay. Hey, maybe you cover this. Russell Henley. We're both in on Russell Henley. Ownership is less than 10%. Very underrated. You want to attach a name to that? Thanks for your contributions again. Just solid stuff here at the end. Who should I put my entire bankroll on Griot to win the tournament? Not advised. Pat, I know you're not a soccer guy, but will you be doing a World Cup show? Just curious. Yes, I will. And I'll probably just
there you go.
And I'll make all the soccer fans mad just by ragging on soccer the entire time. Why is Stephanie Garrigus any interest? No. How about Pat Perez for first round leader? Maybe. Not for me. I had listed my first round leader, so you would know who I had already taken. Any Ryan Blum? Love? I feel like I should. It was a good week for him last week, but I don't have any Ryan Blum. Are you using any?
I mean, min price. I'd rather go Wes Bryan than Ryan Blum, just because I think this course sets up better for him. I like that, that he's been around the winner circle at least, once. So I do like Wes Bryan.
When using Fantasy National, is using bent grass stats a dumb idea when not using putting in your model? Yes, I would think that it is. Bermuda fairways are a better indicator? ? No, fairways are fairways, man. You hit the fairway. I would only use specific grass type for putting. I really would.
Yeah.
Last one. John, free money this week? God, I hope so. I didn't bet him, though. I didn't bet him, so he'll probably end up winning because I didn't bet. I have him as first round leader. I think the longer shot guys that I played, like T20, T10, like a little mini. Oh, I played a double, by the way. Si Woo Keimer double. It pays over 6,000 to 1.
Holy cow. We're never going to see you again if that hits.
I'd say I only put $3 on it, so you will have to see me again.
Okay.
I can't just go buy an island and retire.
Yeah.
Did you end up betting any of the players that are top 5 in odds? No, I parlayed up John Rahm thanks to Add-On the other day. He gave out 3 potential plays. He parlayed them together, and I don't know I think the soccer one's on Saturday, but I just didn't play that. It was like a Texas Yankees over and an NHL under, and I put it with John Rahm and got him at 48 to 1. So I think he just tweeted one out
nice.
if you want to go play it. But Rahm would be the one I would bet if I was going to bet anyone below there, but I didn't have to, so I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, Kuchar 25 is a decent play. He's not the top guy.
Brooks dropped was the problem. Brooks opened at 33 when I grabbed him. I think he's down to 25 now.
Yeah. I mean, getting Brooks at 33 is, again, this is when he first came back too, right? We got Brooks at quite a nice price. I think he was around 40. So you're getting top 10 talent at a 30 to 1. Yeah, take that. But Kuchar for me would be the only other, if I were to take those top tier guys. Obviously he's lower priced, but he would be my other play.
Full fading Walker and Fowler. Thoughts? I'm using shares of both of them, so I wouldn't be on board with it, but if you want it, go for it. Are you doing a U.S. Open sweat show? We hope to. So
there we go.
It's in the plans. It's always a fun show. So some people really hated it. Like really, really hated it. And I felt like I was having a lot of fun doing it. Like me and Feinberg were just sitting here shooting the shit. Like I don't know what people really expected from it. We were sweating lineups. Like what else do you want?
Yeah. I mean, people do the draft, like the same thing, the NFL draft and all that stuff where you're watching them react. It's a reaction show.
Yeah,
it's
people
good
were
content.
people were tweeting me like, I don't care what's going on in your lineups. I just want to know about tomorrow. It's like, well, the round's not even over yet, you moron. Like, what do you expect? You don't have to watch.
No, you do, man. It's the Pat Mayo experience. You have to watch.
I thought so, too. We were trying to interact with the chat as much as we could. I lost a $2,000 bet on, like, Jason Duffner live. That was horrible, but probably pretty entertaining to watch. But I don't know. I don't think it's for everyone, but if you just are sitting around watching the U.S. Open, why wouldn't you just come hang with Jeff and I and watch it? We can all watch it together.
Yeah, man. Just be part of the experience.
Yeah. That's part of the Pat Mayo experience. Jeff in tears. RH says Jeff F. That's not how you spell Jeff. That's a rookie mistake. Hunter Henry torn ACL out for the year. Gates open up again, probably. What are the odds Wise finds another girlfriend? Well, with $1.5 million in his bank account, I think he'll be okay.
Yeah.
Enjoy the Caps Game 7 tonight, everyone. Thanks for answering. Thanks to you for being in the chat. It's not like I'm going to watch the NHL game, but go Caps. Go Ovechkin. That's my take. Taking a few shares of Chris Kirk. Thoughts? Yes, we already went over that. I'm in on that. He made the cheat sheet, I think. He made the cheat sheet. Anyway, it's amusing. U.S. Open picks are British or PGA. Good odds right now? I parlayed Rory up to 40-1. That's the only bet. And I did make a Spieth, Rory, Sergio, Masters, U.S. Open, British Open parlay to win. Obviously, Spieth did not win, but I each weighed it. So if Rory comes inside the top 5 and Sergio comes inside the top 5, I'm looking good. It's not
That's
actually
a nice little parlay. When did you submit that ticket?
right before the Masters.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's not a solid. That's not a. It's a pretty solid bet there.
What am I thinking about the U.S. Open? I haven't done my full research into how Shinnecock's going to play, and it hasn't been there in so long that it's really tough to get a gauge. Like Teef, Phil, Mike Weir was inside. Like it might be a pure accuracy course. Xander is someone like off the radar a little bit that I think that you can look at, especially like I don't even know what the green types are yet. So I don't want to be giving out any sort of like solid advice when I haven't done the full research. I really, although it seems like I'm a moron who just says stuff, I really actually do like to do the research on some of this stuff. So at least I feel like I can be an informed moron when I make bad picks. But just Rory, I just thought I wanted to pick Rory, so I picked Rory. Sometimes you just go with that sort of thing. I think it could be a breakthrough spot for him. Carnoustie, on the other hand, we saw Sergio lose to Patty in a playoff last time it was there. I think that a Euro probably ends up winning. I do like Sergio. Ball striker extraordinaires. Guys that maybe aren't the best putters but can get it going. Noren is someone I would look at in that case as well. I haven't bet any of them, so don't just go play it. And I believe when I looked at Belvedere, it looked like a pure accuracy course, so could be finally the time for Matt Kuchar to win a major. It could be. Rafa Cabrera Bello is someone that I would kind of put on the radar there. Accuracy guys that can get the wedges going. But again, I haven't done the full deep dive on it. I'm just trying to remember. I did a quick dive on it when we did like the PGA preview show. I just kind of remember. Well, listen, man, I can barely remember what happened. Listen, you know, like in Memento, when he like resets every 5 minutes, my mind resets every week. So when I move on to a new golf tournament, same thing happens in football. Like when it's week 1 to week 2, I get all the week 1 information in my head, so I don't need notes. I don't need to talk about anything like that. I just keep going. As soon as we go, all that stuff gets sent to the trash bin, deleted, and I'm out of there. I'm moving on. That's just how I work.
Yeah, that's efficient. But I mean, Shinnecock, right? Just to add, I mean, I believe it's a shorter course, but any U.S. Open, right? You're going to want to keep it in the short stuff and be able to putt. So another guy that I do like is Hatton. If we're talking about different guys, and especially at Carnoustie, Hatton is another play that I would just add to the guys that you already spoke to. But this is way early, so these are just initial leans.
Ponderosa Sports says, who do you think guys will be the lowest owned or highest owned in the field? I think this is my column. Hadwin, Griot, Bryson, maybe.
Yeah, I mean Spieth or Ricky.
Ricky probably the most. I'm still torn between Ricky and Spieth between the highest owned of those 11K guys. Probably Ricky though, just because he's cheaper.
Yeah.
Thoughts on poutine? Well, that's almost poutine. I hate poutine, but people do love it. Finally. It's Belvedere, St. Louis. I will be there. Hey, that's awesome. Enjoy that. Nice. Final one. Trevor, how do you structure your bets? Dollar amounts or units? I don't reveal what I bet on things, but unit-wise, I try to stick in my top-end guys being 1 unit and work my way down from there. I like to have everyone kind of pay the exact same, but the difference would be that when I start each weighing guys, I usually put whatever the unit is for them to win outright the same as the higher end guys, but then I double that up with the each way to get the top 5 because I don't play the top end guys with the top 5s. That's how I try to structure it.
Yeah, we here in the United States don't have that luxury.
Soon, my friend.
Soon. But yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add to that too is obviously personal preference, but guys that you can double up, you can get more shares, right? That are the guys that you like that are 40, that you could build a case for potentially better than guys that are 20, right? Just you have more ways to play and diversify your cards. That's the only thing I would add.
Oh, it's Bellerive. So I've just been saying it like a moron the entire time. No one cares. Sorry, St. Louis. No one cares. But yeah, no, the big thing, and listen, you're always going to fall into the trap of, hey, I really like this guy this way. You have to try to, when it comes to like maxing out I try to stick within my bankroll every week, especially from the betting side. That's how I've been able to not have to redeposit all the time. That if you have a few bad weeks, it's okay. You can rebound by having one really good week. But I know so many people that just they have one good week and then they're all in the next week and then they have no money left. So you need to have patience, you need to have structure, and you need to have some sort of plan. Just if you have a plan, at least you can follow it. And that way you don't get too crazy, but everyone falls into the trap of, I'm going to bet that guy just a little bit more. I really like him this week. And just, you have to curb that instinct to do it if you actually want to be profitable over time. But hey, listen, I'm not a professional gambler. I'm not a professional DFS player. Professional broadcaster. Professional. I am a broadcaster. Yeah. But, it's supposed to be for fun. So bet what you want. Bet within your means. Never go over your means. And it's supposed to be for entertainment. So do that.
Yeah, it's like the Pat Mayo at the Players phenomenon where you say, nah, I'm just not going to do it. But then when it gets closer. So just temper those urges to play, because it can be tempting, right? It can be tempting, especially if you build these different narratives when you have your holistic approach to building lineups, making bets. So just, have a system and stay true to it.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the live chat. Before you take off, give the episode a like. Goes a long way to keeping the show free. If you're listening to this on demand after the fact on the podcast, rate, review. Even if you just scroll down to iTunes, just hit 5 stars and move on your way. You don't have to comment. I prefer you leave a comment, but you don't have to. Reid Fowler, where can people check you out this week?
Yeah, so Reid T. Fowler on Twitter. We're doing a lot of great stuff here at DraftKings. We have some live shows where we talk about everything. PGA. We might have this Friday, we might have another live PGA cut segment. So tune in, Facebook Live, DraftKings, and then on Twitter, it's just Reid T. Fowler.
I won't be there because I will be on vacation. I'm taking off on Friday. I'll be back, not that next Monday, but the following Monday. So no memorial stuff from me. I might actually throw out some DK picks and stuff like that if I just get bored on vacation sitting around visiting my grandparents. But I have a full slate of NFL shows, and I'll reveal. We got some Rich Rebar on. We got Mike Clay on. We got Al Zeidenfeld on. I have another special guest potentially lined up. We're talking about each position, early rankings, and kind of hashing stuff out. I like to go with these guys. They're a real big deal. So the little guys got to take a few shots at them when it comes into it. But that will be fun. I got some shows with Cuss pre-recorded about best movie rankings, football movies, baseball movies. That will all be fun. So give those a like. Check them all out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Remember to subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience. iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you can download podcasts. Free, uncensored, uncut, as always. That's why I always ask for the likes and the reviews so I can keep it free and don't have to start doing premium stuff or putting a whole bunch of ads in. I don't want to have to do that. So just please spread the word around too. It goes a long way. Fantasy National, brand new live scoring during the tournament. I suggest everyone go check that out. A monthly membership right now takes you through the U.S. Open. Every DFS tool you could ever possibly need. Betting tools as well. I'm Pat Mayo. You can check out all my work. You know where if you're still watching. Thank you all for watching and contributing to the chat. I'll see you next time.